So yesterday, for our if then, we did military contemporary romances, a cozy or two thrown in there, but mostly returning home soldiers finding love type situation. So I thought I'd follow up today with reading one of the books. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina Tina. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy stuff going on here. And come here, come here. I changed furniture, so we've got no couch for cozy time. We're gonna get a little cat bed, hopefully soon. We'll see what happens. But here's Miss Smokey to give me encouragement and to say, please like and subscribe. It helps. It really does. Maybe 1,000 by Christmas? Maybe? Maybe? Can I hope? Can I pray? Good. So, I thought we would get to reading the first chapter of Kristen Hanna's The Women. This thing has been on the bestseller list for weeks. Let's find out what's up. Shall we? Are you interested? Coronado Island, California, May 1966. It's Coronad. Walled and g- Walled and graded McGrath Estate was a world unto itself, protected and private. On this twilting evening, the Tudor-style home's mullioned windows of glowed jewel like amid the lush landscape of grounds. 20-year-old Frances McGrath knew what was expected of her tonight. She was to be the very point of a well-bred young lady, smiling and serene. Yes, ma'am. Come here. She's picking at my knees. You can sit on my lap, you know. Should we get your bed table and bring it over? Yeah, then you won't go in it at all. Let's experiment here. Now watch. She'll ignore me. Get this out of the way. So where were we? 20-year-old Frances Grace McGrath knew what was expected of her tonight. She was to be the very portrait of a well-bred young lady, smiling and serene. Any untoward emotions were to be contained and concealed, borne in silence. The lessons Frankie had been taught at home and at church and at St. Bernadette's Academy for Girls had installed in her a rigorous sense of propriety. The unrest going across the country these days, erupting on city streets and college campuses, was a very distant and alien world to her, incomprehensible as the conflict in faraway Vietnam. Moments later, Finley banged through the back gate, his handsome, flushed face. A lock of curly hair had fallen across his forehead. His best friend, Wye Walsh, had an arm around him, but neither looked too steady on their feet. They laughed drunkenly, held each other up as more of their friends stumbled into the party behind them. Dressed impeccably in black sheath with her hair in a regal updo, Mom moved toward the group of laughing young men and women. She wore the pearls her grandmother had bequeathed her, a subtle reminder that Betty McGrath had once been Betty Alexander of the Newport Beach Alexanders. Boys, she said in a modulated tone, how nice that you are finally here. Finley stumbled away. Rye tried to straighten. Dad motioned to the band and the music stopped. Suddenly the sounds of Colorado Island on the late spring night, the throaty purr of the ocean, the whisper of the palm fronds overhead, a dog barking down the street on the beach, took over. Dad strode forward in a custom-made black, crisp white shirt and tie, holding a cigarette in one hand and a Manhattan in the other. Reminds me of Dean Martin with the cigar cigarette and drink. Friends, family, recent academy graduates said in a booming voice. When Frankie was young, he still had a hint of Irish accent, which he worked hard to eliminate. He often touted his own immigrant mythology, a story of bootstrapping and hard work. He rarely mentioned the good fortune and opportunity that had come with marrying the boss's daughter, but everyone knew. They also knew that after the death of Mom's parents, Dad had been more tripled their wealth with his zeal for developing California real estate. He put an arm around his slender wife, drew her close as she would allow in public. We are grateful that you have come to help us say bon voyage to our son, Finley. No more bailing him out of the Colorado police station at 2 a.m. after some ridiculous drag race. There was a smattering of laughter. Everyone at this party knew the circuitous track Finley had taken to adulthood. From earliest memory, he had been a golden boy, a wild child who could make the hardest heart soften. People laughed at his jokes. Girls followed him everywhere. Everyone loved Finley, but most agreed that he was a handful. He had been held back in fourth grade for more constant mischievousness than anything else. He was sometimes disrespectful in church, and he liked the kind of girl who wore short skirts and cigarettes in her purse. When the laughter ended, a toast to Finley and his grand adventure. We are so proud of you, son. Servers appeared with Dom Perignon and poured champagne. The tinkling glass filled the air. Guests surrounded Finley, clapped him on the back in congratulations. Young women pressed forward, vying for his attention. A lot of those men didn't come home. A lot of those men did not come home. It's a whole different world out there. One entire wall of the office was devoted to the family history, framed photographers Mom had inherited from her parents and even a few Dad had brought from him from Ireland. There was a photo of great-grandfather McGrath in his soldier uniform saluting the camera. Alongside the photograph was a framed war medal that her grandpa Francis had awarded in World War. What? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, good God. You've got to go on a diet, Smokey. All right, here. See if you'll hang out. Um, the photograph of her parents' wedding was positioned between her grandfather Alexander's framed Purple Heart and a newspaper clipping with a photo of the ship he served on coming into harbor at the end of the war. There were no photographs of her father in uniform. To his great shame, he had been labeled 4F and disqualified for military service. It was something he lamented in private, only to family, only when he'd been drinking. After the war, he convinced Grandpa Alexander to begin building affordable housing in San Diego for returning veterans. Dad called it his contribution to the war effort, and it had been spectacularly successful. Just like William Levitt in Levittown, New York, and in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Frankie heard the door open quietly behind her and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." She turned and saw Rye Walsh standing in the doorway. He held a cocktail in one hand and a pack of old gold cigarettes in the other. No doubt he'd been looking for a quiet place to smoke. "I'm hiding from the party," she said. "I don't feel much like celebrating." "I was doing the same thing, I guess. You probably don't remember me." "Joseph Ryerson Walsh, goes by Rye, likes whiskey," Frankie said, smiling. It was how he introduced himself to her last summer. "Why are you hiding out? You and Finn are thick as thieves. You both love a party." "I'm going to miss him," he said. She felt the sting of tears and turned quickly away, faced the wall of memorabilia. He moved in beside her. They stared up at the family photos and mementos, men in uniforms, women in wedding dresses, medals for valor and injury, a triangle folded and framed American flag that had been given to her paternal grandmother. "How come there are no pictures of women up there except for wedding pictures?" "It's a hero's wall to honor the sacrifices our family has made in service of our country." "Women can be heroes," he said. "Yes, ma'am." "What's funny about that?" "Well, I see you don't mean—" "Yes," he said, looking down at her. "I mean it, Frankie. It's 1966. The world is changing." Hours later, when the guests had begun to make their polite exits, Frankie found herself still thinking about Rye, what he said. Women can be heroes. No one ever said such a thing to her, not even her teachers at St. Bernadette's, not her parents, not even Finley. Why had it never occurred to Frankie that a girl, a woman, could have a place on her father's wall for doing something heroic or important, that a woman could invent something or discover something to be a nurse on the battlefield and literally save lives? How did a woman go about opening up her world? How did one begin a journey when no invitation had been issued? It was easy, for Finley. The path had been laid out for him. He was to do what all the McGrath and Alexander did: serve his country with honor, then take over the family real estate business. No one had ever suggested any future for Frankie beyond marriage and motherhood. She heard laughter behind her, the sound of running feet. A young blonde woman took off her shoes at the water's edge and splashed into the surf. Rye followed her, laughing, not even bothered to take off her shoes. Walk like a man was sung off key. Finley, propped beside Frankie, fell drunkenly into her. Where have you been all night, doll? I missed you. Hey, Finn. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Frankie sighed. She and Finley had idolized President Kennedy. His words meant something to them. So how could she argue? I know, but it's dangerous, Frankie, trust me. I'm a Naval Academy graduate, an officer with a cushy assignment on a ship. I'll be back in no time. You'll hardly have time to miss me. Everyone said the same thing. Communism was an evil that had to be stopped. Those were the Cold War years, dangerous times. If great men like President Kennedy could be shot in broad daylight in Dallas, how could any American feel safe? Everyone agreed that communism couldn't be allowed to flourish and Asia and Vietnam was the place to stop it. The nightly news showed smiling soldiers marching in packs through Vietnam jungle and giving newsmen the thumbs up, no bloodshed. Finley put her arms around her. I'll miss you, Peanut. He was going off to war. For the next 6 months, Frankie wrote to her brother every Sunday after church. In return, she received funny letters about his life on board the ship and the antics of his fellow officers. He sent postcard pictures of lush green jungles and aqua seas and beaches with the sand color of salt. He told her about parties at the Old Club and rooftop bars in Saigon and celebrities who came to entertain the troops. Yes, Miss Smokey. Now, on this cool night in the last a week of November, the corridors of the hospital were quiet. Dressed in her starch white uniform with a nurse cap pinned on her sprayed bouffant, Frankie walked into the night church nurse who led the way into a private room devoid of flowers or visitors, where a young woman lay sleeping. Frankie's been told yet again how to do her job. High school girl from St. Anne's, the night charge said. Baby, as if the world itself were sin. Frankie knew that St. Anne's was the local home for unwed mothers, but it was a thing no one ever talked about. The girls who left school suddenly and came back months later quieter and lonely looking. Her IV is low. Ike would, for goodness sakes, Miss McGrath, you know you're not ready for that. How long have you been here? A week? 2, ma'am. I'm a registered nurse. My grades don't matter. It's a clinical skill I care about. And you have little of those. You ought to check bedpans, refill water pitchers, help patients to the toilet. When you're ready to move on, I will let you know. What was the point? I could see that. What was the point of all that? She went through all that training and then she gets into the field and the woman is not letting her have hands on actual knowledge, actual doing stuff. So please record and monitor all IV meds. I'll need the information promptly. Go. Frankie nodded and began her nightly rounds going from room to room. It was almost 3 in the morning when she came to room 107. She opened the door gently, hating to waken the patient if she could help. Have you come to see the freak show? Frankie paused. I could come back. Stay, please. Frankie closed the door behind her and moved toward the bed. The patient was a young man with long, shaggy blonde hair and pale, narrow face. A weedy patch of blonde brown hair turfed above his upper lip. He looked like a kid you'd find surfing break at the trestles, except for the wheelchair in the corner. She could see the outline of his legs or his one leg beneath the blanket. You can look. It's impossible not to. Wouldn't look at a car wreck? I'm bothering you. No, they're sending me to a psych ward for trying to kill myself. Involuntary hold or some bullshit. Like they know what I was thinking. Anyway, you might be the last sane person I see for a while. He tried to. I made it 340 days in country. Thought I was home free. That ain't good. Vietnamese side. My girl Jilly, she hung with me, wrote me love letters right up until I stepped on that damn bouncing Betty and lost a leg. She told me I'd adjust and give it time. I'm trying. Your girl told you that? Christina. Am I boring you? You don't find this a good story? So when does she decide? Frankie never thought about nurses in Vietnam. The newspapers never mentioned any woman. Certainly no one talked about any woman at war. Women can be heroes. At that, Frankie felt a kind of reawakening, the emergence of a bold new ambition. I could serve my country, she said to the man whose hand she held. It was revolutionary, frightening, exhilarating thought, but could she really? How did you know if you had the strength and courage for a thing like that, especially as a woman, raised to be a lady whose courage had been untested? So she's decided to join. At the next And a week later, Frankie drove to the nearest Navy recruitment office where a small clot of war protesters stood outside, yelling slogans and holding up signs that read, War is not healthy for children and other living things, and bombing peace is like screwing for virginity. Two men with long hair were burning their draft cards, which was illegal, while the crowd cheered them on. Frankie had never understood these protests. Did they really think a few protesters would convince LBJ to stop the war? Did they not understand that if Vietnam fell to communism, so would all of Southeast Asia? Did they not realize how vicious such regiments could be? They should live now. Frankie felt accurately conspicuous as she got out of the car. She clutched her expensive navy calfskin purse close to her side as she approached the crowd. Hell no, we won't go, they chanted. The crowd turned toward her still for a moment. It's a damn young Republican. Frankie forced herself to keep walking. Oh man, this chick is crazy. Don't go in there. Frankie opened the door, station's door, inside the desk, beneath a sign that read, Be a Patriot, join the Navy. A sailor in uniform stood at the end of the table. Frankie closed the door behind her and went to the recruiting desk. Protesters banged on the window. Frankie tried not to flinch or appear nervous or afraid. I'm a nurse, she said. I'd like to join the Navy and volunteer for Vietnam. How old are you? 20, 21, 21 next week. The Navy requires 2 years of service before they send you to Vietnam, ma'am. You'll need to do 2 years stateside in a hospital before you ship out. 2 years, the war would be over by then. Uh-uh. You don't need nurses in Vietnam. Oh, we need them. My brother's in Vietnam. I want to help. I'm sorry, ma'am. Rules are rules. It's for your own safety, believe me. Dispirited but not discouraged, Frankie left the recruiting office, hurried past the protesters who yelled obscenities at her, and found a nearby phone where she consulted the LA Yellow Pages and found the address for the nearest Air Force recruiting station. Once there, she was told the same thing, that she needed more stateside experience before shipping out to Vietnam. At the Army recruiting station, she finally heard what she wanted. Sure, ma'am. The Army Nurse Corps needs nurses. We could ship you out right after basics. Frankie signed her name on the line, and just like that, she became Second Lieutenant Frances McGrath. So, what'd you think? You gonna go pick it up and read the rest of it? What happens to her? What happens to her in Vietnam? What happens over there? What happens when she gets back? What does her family say? These are all questions. These are all massive, massive questions that have to be answered. to find out. I'll have to read the book. I hope you enjoy it. See what happens. I don't know what happens, but supposedly it's really, really good, and her experiences are honest and real. And this stuff happens. The 60s and 70s was a different time for ladies, way different times. So, keeping the right to vote and keeping the rights to employment and all that other kind of stuff. Check it out. The women can be heroes too. And they are. There's a lot of them out there. There's been a lot of recent movies about all the courageous stuff the ladies did during the war. Ladies can fight in combat too. Have a good one.